32nd verse. Sargana Adi Antah Madhyam. Of creations, I am the beginning, middle, and end. We learned the best way to understand, if ocean were to speak, the ocean would say, I am the beginning, middle, and end of all the waves that have emerged from me. It is very interesting to note. It is a sheer expanse, the sheer vastness of the ocean has the capacity in it to generate these waves. You may say, oh, the ocean has the capacity to produce these waves. Let me pump out some water from the ocean and fill my swimming pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool, and I expect the same waves to be generated. Nonsense, nothing will happen. So it is the sheer vastness of the ocean that has the capacity in it to generate. Similarly, it is the sheer expanse of that Brahman. The entire world has emerged from it. If the world that we perceive is infinite, relatively it's infinite, it just tells us how grand must be Brahman, upon which the world is being superimposed. Superimposed means it is being projected on. The waves are imposed on the ocean. The ocean is substratum from which everything emerges. There is no beginning and end to the ocean. Exactly the same way there is no beginning and end to Brahman. And then we also learned a little difficult to understand, but we said Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam. Adhyatma Vidya, of all Vidyanam, of all knowledges, I am the Atma Vidya. The Atma Vidya has to be understood as the pure consciousness. Atma Vidya, here when they say knowledge of the self, Atma Vidya means the pure awareness. Atma Vidya means the knowing principle. Because of the knowing principle, you know many things. We have many knowledges. The knowledges that we have is because of the pure knowledge or the pure consciousness. So the pure consciousness or the pure knowledge is that state that you become, is the goal that we reach. That state of that pure knowledge or pure awareness is conditioned by our thoughts and desires. One can reach that state of pure consciousness or pure becoming when we take care of the conditioning element. This was the last conversation we had. In fact, when we were, I think Ganesh was the one who asked that question last, and we clarified. We said man minus desires equals God. So when the conditioning element, the desires are taken care of, the self starts revealing itself. Now, the unfoldment of the self, the comforting factor for an aspirant like us, the comforting factor is it is not black and white. It is not complete ignorance to the glorious enlightenment. It's not 0 to 100. It's actually shades of gray, from total black to the milk white, which is that pure enlightenment. It is shades of gray. What it means is, to the extent you have taken care of the desires, to the extent you have changed the characteristic of the desire, to that extent the self starts revealing itself. I repeat, to the extent you change the nature and the characteristic of your desire, that is up to you, what you do with the desire. The self is there within. The maze of desires are covering the self. So the self is unseen. The self, you are unable to connect with the self because of desires. So what should I do? I should go about changing the characteristics of the conditioning element. The conditioning element is a desire. Now, what are the characteristics of the conditioning element? The conditioning element is the desire. Now, what is the characteristics of the conditioning element? What is the nature of the conditioning element? The nature or characteristics of the conditioning element, the desire, can be of three types. The desire can be of a sattvic desire, of a sattvic nature, a rajasic nature, or tamasic nature. So the desires are of three types, and these three desires are enveloping the self, covering the self. The self is enveloped or enveloped, whichever way you put it, because whenever I utter certain words, people immediately pounce on me to correct me. I remember a student of mine in Malaysia. That fellow was, he lived in Paris for many years. I say that fellow because he's elderly, very, very sweet. I have that lovely bond of genuine affection, and I keep really, I go all out teasing him, and he goes all out teasing me. In that atmosphere, lovely atmosphere of bond. And whenever I call, okay, how do you pronounce Einstein? Whenever I used to pronounce Einstein, he said, Guruji, the way you're pronouncing Einstein is wrong. It's Einstein, he'd say. It's Einstein. So like that, there are a few words he used to constantly keep on, pounding on me and keep poking me. Guruji, you don't know how to pronounce this, how to pronounce that. So what is the word for audio and video? Who is Redmi? Because you're putting Redmi, it's coming like that. Is it the same with everybody? So I believe it's so far so good for others. So I request you, Redmi, to please check your connection at your end, Redmi. Whatever you say, Redmi, I like you, Redmi. Reddy Garu, there is no reason to hate Redmi, no? Why are you laughing, sir? I don't understand.
You brought a very unique name, Guruji. We have enough names to braid our heads.
No, that person has called herself or himself Redmi, so I'm saying Redmi. I don't know who that is. So what is why did I remember of Einstein?
The pronunciation.
Yeah, but why did I get to that? Envelope. Whenever I say envelope, people will tell me it's not envelope, it's envelope. And whenever I say route, they'll say it is a route. I said, what headache is that? I tell you. Now, Ganesh from Portugal will say, Guruji, you're pronouncing wrongly. You will have to pronounce this way. One Sanjay will tell me from UK, you have to pronounce that way. Now, whom am I to follow? I don't understand. What, Ramji? I will follow myself.
You have to follow Queen's English, sir. So whatever Sanjay says is correct.
Oh, is it? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sanjay, I'm enrolling for your training session. Please. I am thy disciple. I am thy shishya. I surrender to you. I had to speak the language of Arjuna, no?
Yeah, if your voice was like mine, everyone would walk away. But the Queen's English, I think, is enveloped, and Einstein is seen as a preferred pronunciation.
Enveloped and Einstein.
But
so I'm not far from that, isn't it?
No, it shouldn't matter. We all understand what you're saying.
No, I need a new audience. I'm tired of the same audience. So if I change my accent, maybe I'll get a new audience. So the Atman is enveloped or enveloped by the three nature of desires. So the quality of desires that cover the self. There's a famous verse, in fact, the direct reference in the 3rd chapter, 38th verse of the Gita. You find this verse which spells out. So you will get the actual reference so that you can take a note and see how these desires envelop, cover the self. There you go. Dhume navriyate vahnihi yathadarsho malena cha yatholbena vruto garbha tatha tenedam avrutam. Avrutam. Idam avrutam. This is covered by it. It, obviously, in the thought flow of the verses in the 3rd chapter, it refers to the desire. So he says that this refers to the self, Atman, it refers to the desire. So as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as an embryo by the womb, so is this covered by it. There's a typical, just leave it for a moment, Gayatri. Typical style of the scriptures. They expect you to figure it out. What does that mean? They don't explain themselves. So he gives, it is actually a verse where you find there's a blend of poetry and philosophy. A beautiful blend. He gives 3 analogies to convey how the desire envelops or covers the self. So when he takes the example of smoke cover, which covers fire, or fire covered by smoke, he talks of a sattvic desire. When he talks of a mirror by dust, he talks of a rajasic nature of desires. An embryo by the womb refers to tamasic desire. So it is actually very important that you know the nature or characteristics of the desires you have. All of us have desires. You must know the nature of your desires. Do you know what proportion are sattvic, what proportion are rajasic, what proportion is tamasic? You should know that. So as you spiritually evolve, the lower drops and the higher gains greater proportion. So rajasic and tamasic desires automatically drop off. The sattvic nature desires increase in number. So when he says smoke covering fire, what does he mean? When there is fire, wherever there is fire, there is smoke. And through the smoke, fire is visible. Now, what is the smoke here? Ganesh, if I can ask you, the first analogy is fire covered by smoke. So the question is, or the statement I made is, fire can be seen through the smoke. So what is the smoke here?
Smoke refers to desires.
Which desire?
Something which is more subtler, like you said, it is more sattvic, so it is more subtler, it is not in a solid form or something like that.
It is sattvic desires. Can you mention a few which would qualify under sattvic desires?
Wanting higher knowledge, wanting to learn the scriptures, wanting to, seek seek that which is to be known, something that is described here, anything which is not directed towards materialistic world or towards the outside world, more towards the inner self.
Absolutely. Anything that is directed towards the higher. Can you mention some sattvic qualities here?
Sattvic qualities would be to act.
Because when you say higher self, enlightenment, seeking that, it's very vague. So when one is endowed by sattvic nature or predominance of sattva, there are certain qualities that surface and manifest. So what are the characteristics of a predominantly sattvic person to be able to identify yourself with them? That means predominance of sattva is there in me.
I guess somebody who is more selfless, who is not, wants to do good, is not also agitated so easily.
You're right.
Who's more driven by, not by his inner likes and dislikes, but more driven by what is ought to be done and what not.
Perfect. Yes. Very good. Yes, very much in line to what we are discussing. Very good. Let me get more inputs. What are the more sattvic qualities that surface as you become more sattvic? Harish.
Guruji, a sattvic person is working more for the common good of everybody versus the self, and they have no expectation for any fruits of the action. Hence, it's selfless. It's more. It's done on there are no wants. There are more. It's needed to be done more than the wants. The desires is more on the need than the want to do things.
Can you, absolutely right. Can you look at it from a totally different, paint a different picture of a sattvic person? How else can you paint a picture?
Somebody who's introverted, somebody who's in the marketplace but is not affected by the outcome.
All right. Okay. So you said selfless, who's not affected, who's very much dynamic. All right. Good. Any more qualities? Any more? See, we are mentioning them so that I am able to identify to what extent am I sattvic. And these qualities, when you can actually see the self in a sattvic desire, you can see the self in that person. Just like the fire is seen when there is smoke. So the smoke doesn't cover the fire. It covers, but still it is seen through. So it is like a thin film, perhaps, but not something obscuring the self. Sanjay, any qualities? Thanks, Harish. Any qualities you can further paint a picture of a sattvic person?
So a sattvic person would probably be more introspective.
Introspective.
And looking more at what's going on inside their internal space rather than what's happening outside. I imagine a sattvic person wouldn't, I don't know what, they wouldn't affect them as much. They would react if something poked at them. They'd probably react after more thinking rather than just reacting out of their kind of raw feelings.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't hold grudges. They'd be able to let things go as well.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Yeah, you're able to forgive. You're not holding on to no attachments, no mental attachments.
And happy in their current space and time. Not always looking to the future, not always being resentful of the past.
Yeah. Yes, they're all rightful pictures of a man of sattvic nature. All right. Thanks, Sanjay. Subhashji, you're doing something very wrong to me,
But I
by saying namaskar, I can't forgive you. You know what you have done? What did you type there, sir?
I said that who follows the principles of Yam and Niyam. Yam means the 5 principles of Ast Yoga. These are basically Ahimsa, Satya, Asatya, and Brahmacharya, and not to possess any other bodies, any others, this material things, etc. And in Niyams, what comes like he is satisfied whatsoever he is having, and is follow the principles of tapas. That
no, all that is good, but by saying Yam and Niyam, I'm reminded of why AM is called not Yam. I would read it as Yam. And immediately I was reminded of Yam basket in Malaysia. And I'm going to Malaysia in 2 weeks, and one of my favorite dishes there was Yam basket. So all of those who are coming to Malaysia, you will be introduced to Yam basket. Srinivas Reddy Garu, please. Moment I said Yam basket, he put on his camera. I tell you, you people are interested. I don't know, what are you all coming to Malaysia for? All the while I was teaching, everything was switched off camera. Yam basket, I said immediately camera available. See, oh Rama. So you are planting or reigniting the desires. After 5 years, I'm going back, so I'll be remembering of the Yam basket there. So, Shantima, we will go for Yam basket. Usha Mai, she knows the place I like. She'll take me there. Hari ji, bolo.
He is always dharmic in his activities, plus he is happy so that he is able to spread happiness around him, and he attracts people from outside. People flock around him.
A man who revels in peace and bliss and happiness.
He attracts people around him.
Yeah. It's because of the unselfish nature. Right? People are attracted. So all these qualities surface. So these qualities are the desires that are sattvic desires, sattvic qualities. And also it is easy to get rid of the desires, the sattvic desires, as comparison to the analogy, a passing breeze is good enough for the smoke to pass away. So sattvic desires are very easy to let go of. They cover the self, You see through the self, through them, and easy to let go of them. Now, second, he says, rajasic desires is like the mirror covered by dust. When a mirror is covered by dust, the mirror is blurred. And that blurs your image. So when one is housing rajasic desires, the rajasic desires blur the self. Means when I see a person acting on rajasic desires, he doesn't remind me of the self. I don't see the self in such a person. Now, what is the nature of rajasic desires? Now, before that, Subhashji, you're absolutely right. Yama and Niyama, the qualities that you mentioned, they are certainly of all the qualities. I forgot to acknowledge you because I was only caught up in the yam basket. Forgive me for that. Huh? Now, Srinivas Reddy ji, let's move on from yam basket. We are now in the rajasic desires. Now, what are the rajasic desires or rajasic nature? Ramji, what are the qualities of a rajasic person?
Very worldly, selfish, materialistic, power hungry, would like to dominate and be wealthy and be rich. I mean, all kinds of desires. They could be materialistic, they could be, I mean, worldly desires, let us say. And but in search of wealth and power, mostly accumulation.
Sir, my guru used to tell of a Swami, I can't remember the name of a Swami whom he knew, who had a desire to build 108 ashrams all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually built 108 ashrams. And all through the year, he is just roaming in his private jet from one ashram to other. And he used to describe that Swami, even if I knew the name, I will not mention of it. But you talk of materialistic desires. A spiritual man can also have desires to build ashrams.
But then is he a spiritual man? That is the question.
It is not question of, no, because when you say materialistic desires, you can have the desires even in the spiritual field.
But somebody who has having 108 ashrams is not wrong thing. But if you have 28 Rolls-Royce cars, which one of the Swamis had, and then if you are moving around in a private jet, then is that because that is very clearly rajasic behavior? It is not sattvic behavior, which...
Sir, Lord Krishna had 16,000 gopis. What would you say that?
Krishna is, see, Krishna is not a good example, sir.
Oh, you say Rama is a good example, is it?
Rama is a very good example. Because,
right,
so Krishna can be easily misunderstood, and Rama, there is no scope to misunderstand.
Correct. Ushama, you agree? Huh? Rama can never be misunderstood. Now, so that greed for proprietorship is what we are saying.
Yeah.
That greed or that obsession for acquisition, it can be in any field. It doesn't have to be in creating wealth for myself or my family. You can have, even in the spiritual field, you can have the same greed for acquisition more and more. So you need to be mindful how that greed can creep in.
Yeah, if it is for selfish reasons, then only it becomes rajasic, sir. If it is for general good, you can build ashrams for general good. That is not rajasic behavior.
Correct. So the nature of rajasic desires are passionate. It is desire-ridden. It is selfish. It is gross. They bring about a lot of mental restlessness. That's a trademark of rajasic, mental restlessness. And such desires, you have to put in considerable effort. Like you'll have to put in effort to remove the dust. A passing breeze does not remove the dust. Rajas is extremely possessive. The possessive nature of I and my, with every possession or every action, there is that doership attitude, enjoyership attitude, and everything. There is that I and my. Tamasic desires is like the womb and the embryo. Nothing you can do. You have to wait. The baby will come only close to 9 months. You can't go at the 8th month, 15 days and say, I want the child to be born on this particular day. The time you're giving is coming to be April Fool's Day. I don't want my child to be born on April Fool's Day. So can we do 3 weeks in advance? That's close to the day which I like. Doctor will say nothing doing. You don't tamper with all these things. You got to wait. Means tamasic desires, no effort can do anything to it. How do you identify tamasic desires? What is it, Hariji?
Guruji, should the Rajasic person, should he be necessarily a selfish person? Can he not have a very unselfish goal, but still he is Rajasic?
See, the way we qualify a Rajasic person is he is active, but
Yeah.
he runs around because of his selfish desires. So there is a selfish element predominant in Rajas. But a Sattvic person is active, but the actions are of a sacrificial nature with a spirit of service to a cause beyond himself. That is the flavor of a Sattvic person. So Rajas certainly has to have that I and my, that selfish nature, possessive nature. That's what defines or qualifies a Rajasic person.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can't differentiate Rajasic action to a Sattvic action.
Okay.
Right, sir?
Okay. Okay.
Right, sir. So tamasic nature, how do you, tamasic quality? Yes, Harish.
Guruji, can we say tamasic quality is a person who frequently procrastinates, constant delays, no sense of urgency when he needs attention, and sloth and lethargy all the time?
Yes, you can say tamasic nature is that. Tamasic desires, how do you identify a tamasic desire?
No ambitions, very low or no ambitions in terms of desire. Very contented with himself, with bare minimum, or have no interest in doing the greater good.
But that kind of contentment is not true contentment at all, right?
Correct.
We are portraying tamas, we say contentment with little refers to a sattva. No, I'm happy with bare minimum in a positive sense.
I mean, I mean it in a negative sense, where there's no ambition to enhance the self, to do better for themselves and for the greater cause. There's no desire. They're very contented in their own space, doing almost nothing, so to speak.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Okay. You're right. Absolutely right. Yes. That's a tamasic nature. Anything which is indulgent is tamasic. A tamasic person indulges, leads a life only for pleasure, lives a life for carnal pleasures, gross, the lowest form of pleasures they are interested in. And a tendency, as you said, is procrastinating. You know, they don't stoop down to unethical ways and means to get something done. Gambling is a tamasic activity. They want to earn something without putting in effort. Extremely tamasic way. Life of a tamas is they want to enjoy things without working for it. They are ungrateful. They look for shortcuts in everything that they do. That kind of a thing. So you need to put in extraordinary effort, or perhaps it takes a long time to get rid of tamasic desires. So this verse gives you the characteristics of the conditioning element. So when we said of knowledges, I am the knowledge of the self, we spoke about the conditioning element and we took the reference there. Okay. All right. Yes, Ganesh.
So I was just reflecting upon what happened yesterday. I was watching the match. And
which match?
If you watch the Asia Cup India-Pakistan match.
Please don't assume things. Because
Why?
there are people in a different world, they would not know what you're talking about. Like Sanjay
Right.
is not even aware what you're talking about. So what match? He will only think of football match in UK.
Right.
Correct? Isn't it, Sanjay? Yeah, there you go. He's nodding his head. There you go. Yes, please go ahead.
You're right. I was just assuming, talking to an Indian audience, and I just said
no.
All right. So just going through and then observing the different emotions, playing in me when you're watching that, where it does affect you in a certain way, in a very subtle way, but then you watch it with a certain desire. So my question is, I can drop the desire of wanting a certain team to do well, just appreciating the match, right? Would that, can I still watch the match? I mean, watching the match itself is a desire to watch the match, but watching it without being affected by any outcome, or without internally also wanting someone to do a certain way, would that qualify as, doing something, or watching, in this case, watching a cricket match without a desire?
I am lost in the question. What are you asking?
My question is, my question is perhaps on a bigger scale, to go through, to do certain things without having a desire. I mean, there is a certain desire that leads to a certain situation, like a desire to even watch the cricket match leads to a situation that I'm sitting in front of a TV and watching the match. And having chosen that, to go through the experience without the repercussions of a desire, would that still qualify as having a sattvic desire, or is there a stage where you can go through a certain experience without a desire at all? Because a certain desire always brings to me, has led to this situation of me even
right.
choosing a certain action.
Okay, so with reference to the match and watching, does it qualify under a sattvic desire or a rajasic desire because of the context of the game of India and Pakistan playing, and then the wanting your home team to win and the emotions that circle around that match and things like that. See, first and foremost, a sattvic desire is to check whether this desire is taking me to myself, to my goal. To constantly keep that in mind, whether is not a question of a match. No, where people would go to great length to just watch a match. They go. One can go overboard. It can become an impediment in their ability to enjoy a good game. They are so passionate. You allow that emotions to come and disturb your ability to appreciate an opponent. You don't become sportive. You lack that sportive spirit. There are negative emotions of hatred. It spoils the spirit of the game. You play sport with a sportive attitude, and a better team wins. Would you appreciate an opponent playing well? And if your home team has not played a better game, would you be able to appreciate that opponent? That is being sportive. So rajas is where you get overwhelmed by the desire and the emotions that come out of the desire. As you know, desire is the root of all emotion. So that's being rajasic. But sattva is if the desire doesn't take you to your goal, if you have to mean that you have to get stuck to the television for 7 hours and do nothing else, and you become unproductive. I don't know whether it's a legitimate desire to entertain or not. I don't know. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's subjective. Would I do that? To a large extent, I may not have the time or the interest. I tuned in for a while, but then I was so exhausted. I said, I need to give my body the rest. I switched off. I was not interested in the game. You know? So it's nothing, not a personal perspective I'm saying, but I'm saying how you should evaluate every desire that comes. One may have many desires. How does it help me to take me to my goal? If I give in to every desire of mine, in the objective of fulfilling it, then I'll be running behind every desire, satisfying it. There are desires that I need to checkmate and say, I don't want to waste my mental energy pursuing them. This is where you practice tapas. Tapas is conservation of your energy. So how do you look at your desires? So that's where you perhaps give focus to your sattvic desires more than rajasic and tamasic desires. So you need to classify them and then say, where is my purpose? Am I to give in to my sattvic or rajasic or tamasic? Let's say if I have being there in Europe now, though you've been there for so many years, let's say suddenly somebody have desire, let me go and see Europe. You may have time, resources, everything at your disposal. But how would I classify? Is it a sattvic desire, rajasic desire, tamasic desire? You got to classify it. What is my purpose? I'm not saying right or wrong. It's subjective. So since we have classified desires into 3 types, you got to see. But giving into any desire, as long as you have no control, it is negative. You should not give into any desire. You know, this example often I've mentioned it. Let's say to know whether you have a control over desire. Since you're talking of a match, let's say what time, your time in Portugal, the match started?
It was a good time, after about 10:30 in the morning.
In the morning? Okay. Let's say 10:30 in the morning. You're very much aware of the time the match starts. To really know how much control you have your mind, next time it happens, test it. Switch off the television, keep your mobile away till 10:45. You pick up a book or you do some other activity without any anxiety of your mind running into what is happening in the mind. Has the match started? Who has won the toss? Who is batting? What is the score? What is happening? let your mind not run into the activity of the match till 10:45 or 11 o'clock. Just be away from it. 11 o'clock, go and watch the match till the post-match interview. But that first half an hour from 10:30 to 11 o'clock, you know your mind is under your perfect control. That is a test of control. That is a test you have not given into the desire. Otherwise, I know people, a fellow came to me and said, I have a problem. The problem is if there's a match next day, the previous night, I can't sleep. I said, why? Why can't you sleep the previous night? Because I'm busy deciding who will play that playing 11. As if the captain or the coach is going to ask his opinion, who is going to play the next day. So this fellow's mind is hyperactive and he's not able to sleep the previous night. It's got nothing to do with the team or the team selection. Look at the kind of the build-up and anxiety and the way the mind rushes into the desire and experience. So this is the control. I mean, it's not the control, not the question of enjoying the match. It's a question of how well have you kept the desire under control and not fallen a prey.
I was
Any
actually
desire.
playing a toy
Sorry?
with my daughter until 10:45 or so. Was playing a game with my daughter. Had to.
There you go. Had to.
Had to.
No. I'm only giving an example. Since you asked me the question, how not to give into the desire, that's the real control. If you don't give into it, if that obsession, as they say in Sanskrit, the vega is the force arising out of the desire. As long as you can control the force arising out of the desire, you can go into the experience what your desire wants and enjoy it. No problem. You are a true master.
Can I ask a follow-up question here?
Yeah, please.
So I've been trying to observe this exactly, this force that, especially like I was in India recently, and then I like sweets, but I don't eat too much. But then even the moment when there is something in front of me and I want to eat it, and I observe, am I eating it? Because I have not been conscious in that few last seconds of eating it. The mind just says, oh, wow, this is a sweet, and just now devour it, right? How do we go through such an experience of saying, if I were to be conscious, then there's something inside that says, actually, you don't have to eat it at all. Just don't eat it. Or have a little small bit and then just let it go.
If I were you, I'll not complicate it. Just eat it and forget it. Why are you overanalyzing, Pa? You have come to India for 2 weeks. In Portugal, you will not get any sweet. Come here, eat, forget it, go and burn it back home. What are you worrying? Otherwise, you'll get frustrated. I tried to apply this Vedantic wisdom, and now I didn't get that opportunity of eating that Rashmalai and Rasgulla and Gulab Jamun. Ayyo, I had it in front of me. Sitama, correct? I had it in front of me and I didn't eat it. I know when I came to Institute, you also offered a sweet, and I said no to it. Over analysis. Go ahead and burn it. Finish. Job done. Sir, self-control is not physical, sir. That's what I'm trying to get at. To be on a serious note, self-control is not a physical thing. It's a mental thing. As long as, the definition of self-control and the definition of indulgence, it is not measured by the physical contact. It's rather is measured by what establishes the contact with the sense object. Are you with me? Self-control or self-indulgence is not defined by physical contact. Means a person, the moment you eat, it doesn't mean you're indulging. Just because you don't eat doesn't mean you're practicing self-control. No.
Right.
One may not maintain a contact because of fear. But inwardly, I have a desire for it. Then what are you doing? I'm mentally worshipping it, but I'm afraid, the amount of sugar and the disease that I might get. So out of fear, I'm not having. But my mind still has a value for it. That is not control. So self-control or sense indulgence is defined by what establishes contact with sense object. If The mind establishes a contact with a sense object. It is sense indulgence. Full stop. If the intellect, out of control, establishes a contact, it is self-control. Even if I'm enjoying it and eating it. If I were to eat 2 rasagullas at a time, but my intellect has sanctioned very clearly to say, go ahead and eat it, I am practicing self-control. This is a revolutionary definition of self-control or sense indulgence. It is not measured physically, because I may physically abstain, but if I'm mentally still worshipping it, it means I am a hypocrite, because my mind still worships and entertains the thought of the sense indulgence or sense object. I still have the value for it. What you want to let go is the mental value for it, not the physical separation from sense contact. Then I'm a hypocrite. You get it?
Yeah. So I'm actually referring to exactly this mental indulgence.
Okay.
Sorry if I am really extending this, but in the last few seconds of having something which you really love, it could be, in this example, a sweet, let's say, or it could be a whatever salty. In the last few seconds, there are situations where the mind is involved. The mind tells you how pleasurable it is to enjoy the sweet, and then you just put it in your mouth and you're enjoying that sweet.
Why are you decoding it so much? I already told you, don't decode all this. After decoding so much, you will forget, what did I eat actually? Or did I eat it? I don't know whether you go through the difficulty. I don't go through all that. No, it is just, I know I did appreciate your level of awareness when we offered. You were very mindful of it. I think it's all about how alert you are. It's like when you're driving, you are extremely cautious, extremely alert. So in case there is any potential danger, you're able to take those corrective measures so that you don't get in trouble. It's just that level of awareness. But being aware, alert doesn't mean you are rigid or stiff by the steering. You're very relaxed, but yet one aspect of you very alert where you're driving. You see? So that kind of intellectual awareness, if anything is going to deter in my evolution or my betterment or my reaching the goal, you wouldn't do it. You would say no to it. That kind of an attitude to say no to anything that doesn't take me to my goal is practicing self-control. But if anything doesn't hinder in any way for me reaching my goal, for example, yam basket, it doesn't interfere in my reaching the goal. Ramji, correct, isn't it? If Ramji gives approval, I am okay with it. Because if I say Krishna, he will not give approval. Ramji has to give approval. So as long as it doesn't interfere, go on, go ahead. That acute awareness of your goal in the life you lead defines self-control. So it's not to be measured by physical distancing from the sense objects. But however, as you evolve, the rasa, the thing you're saying, there's a residue effect of an appreciation of a sense object or the value for it. All that also will go off as you evolve, as you go higher and higher. There is no, rasa is said to be, what is rasa? Not rasam. Huh? There's a difference between rasam and rasa. What is rasa, Gayatri Ma?
Rasa is that essence of that, what you have eaten.
Essence illa. It is the leftover lingering
feeling or the taste.
That is the rasa. So that you have, that can be a longing also. That's kind of a thing there. That also param drishtva nivartate, he says, as you reach the supreme, even that will go. So as you initial stages is you are a slave of the desire. As you evolve, the desire loses its possession of you. You're free to be away from it as you evolve further into higher echelons of perfection. The desire has no value. It has no interest for it. It doesn't become an impediment for you. Thereafter, the desire goes off, the value goes off, the rasa goes off. You only are interested in the param drishtva, the supreme. You actually experience it. There's actually transformation. You see that in stages. To the most potent desire that is bothering you, it will have no value for you as you evolve. All right?
All right, thank you.
Right. Of arguments, I am vada. Logic. And back to the 32nd verse. The last section of the verse we didn't cover. Vada of arguments. There are 3 types of arguments we are told. One is jalpa, Jalpa. Second is vitanda. Third is vada. Jalpa is when someone gives an assertive opinion, which usually is refuting another person's point. An assertive opinion resulting to an adversary's view with an arrogant rejoinder. Jalpa. So it's a self-opinionated result or self-opinionated view resulting in an arrogant rejoinder. That is jalpa. That kind of people don't last in a classroom like this because they are not coming with a specific objective. Then vitanda is a destructive criticism. Even those people are not, they are people, visitors who come in and go, and such people, it's easy to know where they're coming from, you know. But vada, of all arguments, he says, I'm vada. Vada is nothing but a logical sequence of thought. When you arrive at an irrefutable truth. So when you speak logically, coming to you're establishing a truth which is irrefutable because you're being logical. So when you speak, you try to inject logic and reason so that your point stands for itself. Rather than being opinionated, you should try to present facts of life rather than opinions. Okay. With that, the 32nd verse concludes. 33rd, please. Aksharanamakarosmi dvanda samasikasya cha ahamevakshaya kalaha dhataham vishwato mukhaha. Aksharanamakarosmi dvandva samasikasya cha ahamevakshaya kalaha dhataham vishwato mukhaha. Aksharanam akaraha asmi. I am a of letters. Aksharanam of letters, I am akaraha. Of compounds, I am dvandvaha, the dual. I am the everlasting time, akshaya kalaha. Akshaya, everlasting, kalaha, time. I am dhata, supporter. Vishwato mukhaha, facing all directions. I hope we are not getting tired with this long list of enumerations of where all the Lord is. Sanjay, are you tired? Not at all, isn't it? Now, the day I am tired teaching, I'll stop teaching. The day you're tired listening, that day you stop listening. Sanjay, can you tell me why would one get tired? When would one get tired of listening or speaking?
If they think they've found the answer, if they think they know everything, or if it just, yeah, sorry.
No, please.
And just more simply, if it stops becoming interesting, it's just this knowledge is it's just interesting. It keeps the mind keeps the mind alert. It's there's always something new in it, even when it's repeated.
Let's say there's nothing more to interest you and I start sounding boring to you. At some point, the information becomes repetitive.
Yeah.
You may be listening for the first time, but considering I've been doing this, I don't know which number of time I'm doing this text, I don't know. I don't know how many cycles of 18 chapters in my life I've finished. I don't know. You know the pace we're going, and 18 chapters takes a lot of time. I'd have easily done 10, 12, 15 times the 18 chapters in my whole life so far. Different audiences over the years of 3 decades, I've done that. But yet I have not lost interest in teaching this. And there's nothing that's unfamiliar when I teach this. From an audience perspective, you say, yes, sir, that much I know. There's something new I learned, the way you put it, or the interaction, the discussion makes it refreshing. Fair enough. But for a speaker, there's obviously a time may come I get tired, isn't it? If not from a listener's perspective, answer the question from a speaker's perspective. SR. You get
No,
Sanjay?
No, no, Guruji, you will not get tired because.
Huh?
No,
First of all, when did you become my spokesperson? I can't understand.
Since you asked me how to represent Guruji.
Oh, correct. I only gave the permission to you, correct? Yes, sir.
So we use more of a leadership, like one who are totally engrossed and passionate, involved. So there is no question of word comes into the picture like boring. Something is really not comfortable or want to get disconnect. So I don't think that will come into the minds of the people who are really committed to the cause, are really committed to the purpose, what is being longing. Either it could be in any for that matter. Like I don't get bored for do anything to do a professional way of addressing. I don't get tired. I don't get worked up. Or I feel that it is creating a discomfort. It creates a lot of energy. The more you start getting into it.
So suddenly that thought came to me when I chanted the 33rd verse. Man, we've been going for good over 15, 20 verses where I am this, I am that, I am this, and what is this going on and on and on? Boring listening to Krishna, this section or this chapter. It should never happen that. No, but I appreciate the confidence you have in me, sir. But it is very much a possibility. It can't be taken for granted. That's what I'm saying. As a seeker, it can always happen. And I've seen it happen in many people. They get saturated with the knowledge and they drop this knowledge. Considering you have to be associated with knowledge rest of your life. I will be, and I will not disappoint you, SR Garu. Rest of my life, I will be with this. You know, whether you all are there on the screen or the new bunch of people will come, I will go on until my last breath. I will go on.
That's good.
So it is not you all that inspiring me. I'm inspired by my journey, and I'm happy to share this knowledge to who comes in the journey you want to take it from. And I'm not being arrogant when I say that. but I know what makes me going, and I want to ensure that principle will also, or that quality will also ensure you to carry on. And if you don't do that, it will drop. And I've seen many drop away because of that one reason. You know that one reason? The knowledge will become stale to you. Apart from that reason, Gayatri Ma? Oh, what is that one reason?
Basically, when you keep on doing everyday morning reflection, you start giving new ideas, and you start increasing your level of your intellect as well.
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yeah. The one thing if you don't do, which we've been harping, is to do that Brahma Muhurtam study, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. If you do not do it, it is matter of time. I will see your absence. I will feel your absence. You will not be here because you are not doing your sadhana. Full stop. And you must be tired of me saying that also. You can be tired. I don't blame you for that, but I have to speak the truth. What will give you that energy and the vigor and the essence to carry on is that sadhana of yours, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Whichever place you are, don't have to do in Indian timing. Sanjay, you please follow your time zone in UK. Haresh, you please follow in Hong Kong. Ganesh, you please follow in Portugal. Shantima, please follow in Malaysia, and rest of those who are in India follow Indian timing. I'm following Indian time, Brahma Muhurtam in my country. Don't do this, please. Unless and until that sadhana is done, believe me, you will get tired. So the day I stop, if why would I feel tired of teaching this, is because I am not doing my sadhana. This is the reason, SR Garu. Apart from the passion to teach, the knowledge will not inspire you, because then you are having motives to knowledge. But without any motive, without any strings attached, if this knowledge itself has to inspire you, then it has to be. You don't study to teach. You don't do sadhana to impress an audience. You do for your own evolution, and that must drive you. But just then, once you have that, then the verse, as it says, is just a matter of being academic, what the mantra is saying, the verse is saying. So quickly just get into the verse. He says, of letters I am a or a, the alphabet a. If I'm not wrong, I think it's true, but please double check with this. All languages start with the alphabet a. Am I right? Ashama, correct, na? All languages is said to start with the alphabet a. Stop sharing, ma. We're done with the share. Hanji.
Yeah, even in Urdu, it starts with Alaf Be Pe, the alphabet.
There she's authority.
In Marathi also it is A, I, E.
I only know in English. A, B, C, D. So, and it's also true that at even the first sound at birth, the baby utters is a. The first sound is a. All languages, the first alphabet is a. Even when a child is initiated, when they write, probably they write it on the tongue, and the alphabet they're supposed to write is a. They write. So he says, of all letters I am a. It is the first of all vowels and consonants. A also represents akshara. A is akshara, which means the imperishable. It's interesting how what all Lord Krishna had to think, which we would not have not thought in normal circumstances. But he said, I am of all alphabets. Of all compounds, I'm Dvandva. For that, you need to read Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, there are 4 samasa, means compounds of 2 words. So there's a combination of 2 words. In Sanskrit, there are 4 combinations, which is avyaya bhava, tatpurusha, bahurihi, and dvandva. I repeat, avyayi bhava, tatpurusha, bahurihi, and dvandva. So of these 4 compounds, I am dvandva. Dvandva is where there is an equal emphasis on both the combinations of both the compounds of words. Like when we use the word Rama Lakshmana, I see it's all technical. I'm not going into the detail of it. But when I use the word Rama Lakshmana, the emphasis is on Rama and Lakshmana. For example, in Tatpurusha, when I use a Sanskrit, Ramji is our Sanskrit professor in the class. Tatpurusha. When you use the word Tatpurusha, say Tatpurusha, second compound, the emphasis on the second word. When we use the word Sitapati, what does it mean, sir?
The emphasis is on the first word.
Ayo.
Anybody's pati is only secondary. So the first word only is the emphasis. Lakshmi pati, Setapati, all these.
It's a second word, sir. The emphasis on second word, not the first.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
But when we say he is Setapati, he is husband of Seta. So I thought the emphasis is on Seta, not on husband.
Sita is Rama's consort. Sita's pati. So the in Tat Purusha, the accent is the second word. In Avyaya Bhava, emphasis is on the first word. As we say, perhaps if we say Adhihari, which means in Hari. I am not a Sanskrit professor, but when you read a little about it, Bahuvrihi is, accent is not on both, there is no accent. For example, Pitambara. Pitambara means the yellow robe or the yellow garment. But Pitambara refers to Lord Krishna wearing a yellow garment. The accent is not on any of the word, but suggesting something else. But Dvandva is equal emphasis on both. When you say Nama Rupa, names and forms, Rama Lakshmana, Rama and Lakshmana, Radhe Krishna, that kind of a thing. So,
also must be there.
Raga Dvesha, correct, likes and dislikes. So, of the compounds, he says, I am Dvandva. I don't know how much of philosophy you are learning in this section, but a lot of your general knowledge is increasing. For that, we will certainly thank Vyasa and Lord Krishna for that. But please don't come for this class for general knowledge. Please come for the essence, the Saramsha, which is, he says, I am the essence and everything. Reddy Garu, why are you staring at me like that, sir? I'm only speaking the truth, sir. Suddenly he's staring at me.
I think next time onwards, Guruji, I need to dim the lights. So your observation is so powerful. So let's be in the incognito mode to be
incognito mode, yeah. The moment I mention yam basket, you will appear again. Incognito mode will come, cognito mode will come. Right, sir. Right. Very interesting, very interesting section of the entire Gita. It's a very unique portion. It has a beautiful flavor of it. We need to soak in this moment.
Guruji, there is one point of a moment where we were talking about so much so the God, the Brahman is projecting himself by comparing with so many things in the universe. I said, what was the necessity for a Brahman to relate? But in the due course of the explanation of one of the other, it's understood everyone has a deeper meaning where it is taking you to a different angle to make us to understand.
Yeah, it's deeply philosophical than the mere apparent implication. It is, you dig deep, it has a lot more to draw out of.
Yeah,
very true. Very true. Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, Itama.
Guruji, what did you say for Tatpurusha? What was the example you gave for Tatpurusha?
We gave the example of Sitapati with accent. Sitapati.
Sitapati. Okay, okay.
With accent is on the second word. Okay.
Okay.
Please note that next weekend will be the last couple of classes for the Saturday and Sunday. After that, we will be having a break of 3 weeks because of my travel to Malaysia on the lecture tour. So next weekend would be the 9th and 10th will be the last session. Again, after which the sessions will only be in the second week of October. Okay, but anyway, you will be informed. Just if you can be there the following session, because again there's going to be a little break, right? Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.